All right. Welcome back, beautiful soul, to the You Unlimited podcast. I am so grateful you're here. We're going to get right into it. We're going to be talking about when it makes sense to, of course, lean out of the comfort zone, right? We all talk about this. We've got big goals. We want to start moving towards the thing that we desire. And simultaneously, I want to talk about something that I don't think a lot of people talk about, which is when to actually stay in the comfort zone, right? Like, when are we going to actually stay in that space so that that allows us to then later expand where we desire to go? So I'm really excited to dig into this today. So let's just drop straight into it. So the thing that had me actually channel this message as it was coming through was I was going for a walk the other day and I started recognizing that I walk the same path every single day. And it's like I do this big loop all the way around my house, or I guess around like my neighborhood. And then if I feel like I want to keep walking, I do the loop again. And I had this like kind of epiphany where I was like, this is one of those things where I feel like I've just been doing it on autopilot. And what would it look like to actually take a different path? Like I'm in the mood to actually kind of like step outside of the lines and start to feel inspired and move into different spaces. And so what I started to do was actually I said, okay, I'm going to actually take a completely different path and see where it takes me. And what I found to be really, really beautiful about starting to kind of step outside of the norm, if you will, was I started to get really inspired by all of my senses, where normally I would just be kind of like in that regular groove. That's the thing, that's the way that I do it. There's a time and place for that, but also it's really important for us to step outside of our comfort zone and to start to recognize how that will inspire us in so many different ways. So I'm going on this walk and all of a sudden I'm seeing, you know, a red cardinal and a blue jay, and I'm seeing this little like body of water that's kind of like I didn't even know that was close to my house. And it was really beautiful. And then I look down and I see a foxtail and I'm like, that's a little bit weird. Like, where's the fox? And okay, hopefully it doesn't like jump out of this bush, but also like poor thing is like missing half of its tail. So there is a part of me that was like, I actually am like ready to explore and do something different. And it allowed me to step into my senses in a completely different way. And so what that's doing is it's expanding my brain, it's expanding my nervous system, and it's allowing me to use that as a template to then step into things in business that are new and scary. So one of the things that I was guided to kind of lean into today was around ways that you can start to actually practice stepping outside of your comfort zone so that when you play outside the lines in business or you step outside of your comfort zone in business, it's going to feel more normalized and safer to do things that are unfamiliar. So, what I was channeling on, like right before I even started this episode, was notice things that you do, day-to-day things that you do that are kind of mundane or that are just like your standard, your norm, let's say brushing your teeth, and start to actually do it a little bit differently. Because what you're doing is you're actually waking up your senses, you're waking up inspiration, and you're telling your body, mind, and spirit it's safe to do things differently. Because this is what you're actually telling these neural pathways. It's safe to do things differently. So if you're right-handed, brushing your teeth with your left hand or vice versa, right? The first time I did this, I have an electronic toothbrush. I sprayed like toothpaste all over my face. I'm like, okay, great. So it's fine. We got it all cleaned up. We were good to go. But it was one of those funny things where it just reminded me that it's so important for our brain to actually shift often, even in micro ways, right? So brushing your teeth with the opposite hand, like still going for a walk in the neighborhood, but taking a different path. Now I'm starting to actually open up to more inspiration, seeing things in a different way. I started to channel on this walk. I was just a lot, it's like all these ideas started flowing through because I wasn't just stuck in my old path and old way of doing things, right? So what I'm being guided to really bring into the space is notice where you're doing things kind of habitually and how can you start to change it up so that it trains your body, mind, and spirit that change is safe because you're doing it in a controlled environment. And it's going to allow you to kind of copy and paste that into business so that when you make, another hire or you decide to restructure or you're offering something new or you decide to sunset something in your business altogether where you're like, I've been doing this way for so long and it doesn't feel like me anymore, right? That's a big deal, and our nervous system is going to be like, wait, I have all these questions. And so what you're doing is when you practice in small ways, it allows for these big intuitive things that say, burn this this part of your business to the ground so that you can rebuild, it allows for you to say, change is safe. It's okay. I got the intuitive ping. We're going to get through this. I trust, right? Really, really important. Now, one of the things that I do every single day is a 5 minute energy reset so that it allows me to feel more safe and more calm while I'm doing these things, right? While I'm, one, just protecting my energy in general, which is super important for every single person. But simultaneously, when I'm making big moves in business, I feel safe, I feel grounded, I feel like I'm in trust, and I know that I'm connected to my spirit guides. And it really allows me to say, I'm going to start to lean into business in this way. What it's making sense, what God's Source Universe is sending my way. I'm going to take that, bold next step, but I feel grounded while doing it. And so the way that I do that is I have a 5 minute energy reset. That is something that I do every single day. It is my one non-negotiable. And I want to gift that to you. So if you don't already have, or you don't already have a grounding practice that you do daily, or you just want to add something extra to your routine, I made it 5 minutes intentionally because every single person that I work with is like, okay, I only have X amount of time. I don't want to do a 3 hour like morning routine, or, an old version of me had like a 45-minute morning routine, but like I've got kids. So it's like this idea of being like, okay, I need to actually create spaciousness to say, what can I do that's fast, that allows me to do all the things that I need to do, which is to ground, protect my energy, clear my energy so that I can really serve and I feel safe serving. I feel safe stepping into new things in business, right? So this 5 minute energy reset is my gift to you. This is something that is my one non-negotiable every single day. And I could not recommend it more. This is something that one of my recent clients just had a TEDx, and she said she felt so grounded and so safe stepping onto the stage and delivering her TEDx, right? Like this is the thing that she used before she even stepped out onto that stage to say, let me ground so that I remember this entire TEDx experience isn't even about me. Like God, Source, Universe used me as a conduit, but how do I feel safe in my body so that I can feel really rooted and deliver the message the way that God's intending, right? So really, really important. So 10 out of 10 recommend download that experience have it in your back pocket. Like do it daily. It is like the most grounding thing that I've stepped into, and it really protects your energy too. Because if you're leaning into the space, you're probably an empath, which means you can feel other people's emotions, and sometimes you take them on, which, there's no right or wrong. Honestly, that's a superpower, but we have to protect our energy knowing that, right? It's really important. So but I made it 5 minutes intentionally so that when we don't have that much time, we can still do this. So that's if you're trying to step outside of your comfort zone, right? Different ways of stepping outside of the comfort zone to say, I want to expand my business. It will require a new version of me. Therefore, I need to step outside of mundane patterns to feel safe stepping into these bigger redirections, right? So that's that. But I also want to give the caveat of when it makes sense to stay in the comfort zone, because I think so often it's demonized. Like you need to get out there, you need to make bold moves, be daring, like push yourself, right? And there's also a version of when your nervous system is on an edge, that's actually an indication to you, like when you are like so far on the edge that you're like, I don't know if I'm going to fall off. Coming back to neutral can be a really powerful tool. Now that 5 minute energy reset will do that. So there's that. And also I want to caveat, there are moments when staying in our comfort zone can be the warm hug that we actually really, really need, right? So it's staying in that practice as well. There's certain times where it's like, I just need to actually do something that I'm used to doing. So for instance, if I had gone out for that walk and I was on an edge with something, like let's say there were things that kind of shit hit the fan, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, this is happening in business, or this is happening, in different ways. And I just needed something that was going to ground me and root me. Going on that same path in my walk, doing something that's a little bit predictable that actually allows me to calm my nervous system so that I can look at this other thing through a different lens is really powerful too. So I don't want to bypass the fact or say that it's a demonize this idea of comfort zones. I think they're there for a reason. Like we're meant to actually lean in those ways so that we can feel the safety first and foremost within our nervous system to then say, okay, am I plugged in? Is what I'm channeling to do next actually myself, or is that ego? Because I think it's really, really important to say, let me create safety within my mind, body, spirit. Let me recognize when I'm on a complete edge and I just need to do things in a mundane way so that I get back into my body. Really, really important. So that's why we'll do things like even, closing our eyes and listening for three things that are around us when we're on an edge, right? Or noticing what are five things in the bedroom. These are little things that are going to start to actually get us back into our body, get us back to neutral, and then we can explore actually taking ourselves to intentionally disrupt a pattern, to intentionally, start to live out our passion and purpose in a new way. And it's going to ask for ourselves to actually kind of shift what that looks like. But I wanted to caveat both. There's a reason there's a comfort zone, and then there's a reason why we step outside of the comfort zone. And how can you optimize both? So that is what we dug into today. I hope that that was supportive. I just wanted this to be a little bit of like a snack, something that you could just lean into really quickly, just to remind you that there's so much power in both and really honor the season that you're in. And by the way, the season can change every minute of every day, right? I don't mean like you're in a season of like this is winter, so like don't do anything, don't launch anything. I'm not saying that. Like we have seasonality within our energy every single day. So it's like we're going to have moments where we have this big burst of energy. We're going to have moments where we just want to come inward and honor that for a minute. And then we're going to have moments where we feel like we're blossoming and we want to, create and do something new and we're feeling very inspired, right? So just notice where you're at and start to really support yourself through each of those seasons in different ways. Where can you kind of push the boundaries? Where can you step outside of your comfort zone in a way that feels safe so that it feels safer when we do it in bigger things? And where do you really need to come back into your body and start to support yourself through whatever it is you might be moving through? So with that, I am sending you so much light and love. I hope that there was at least one thing that you gathered from this that you can actually take into your daily life. That is my goal for you with every single podcast episode that we create. It is around what is one thing, at least one thing that I can take and actually action today. Because when we've got 12 things, even three things sometimes, we go back into our habitual pattern. We have one thing that can pattern disrupt, do it a little bit differently. That's telling our body it's safe to move forward in a different way. So, what is that one thing? I want you to tune in now. What is the one thing that I could do a little bit differently today that would then support in guiding me towards the thing that I really desire further down the road? So, with that, I'm sending you so much light and love. And until next time.